So today we are reading Beowulf Part X, starting with Beowulf silences Unferth. Glee is high. So ill-meaning enemies did often cause me sorrow the sorest. I served them in quittance with my dear-loved sword, as in sooth it was fitting. They missed the pleasure of feasting abundantly, ill-doers evil, of eating my body, of surrounding the banquet deep in the ocean, but wounded with edges early at morning. They were stretched high on the stand of the ocean, put to sleep with the sword, that sea-going travelers no longer thereafter were hindered from sailing the foam-dashing currents. Came a light from the east, God's beautiful beacon. The billows subsided, that well I could see the nesses projecting, the blustering crags. Weird often saveth the undoomed hero if doughty is valor. But me it did fortune to fell with my weapon 9 of the nickers. Of the night struggle harder neath dome of the heaven I heard I but rarely, nor of wight more woeful in the waves of the ocean. Yet I scaped with my life in the grips of the monsters, weary from travel. Then the waters bear me to the land of the Finns, the flood with the current, the weltering waves. Not a word hath been told me of deeds so daring done by thee, Unferth, and of sword terror none. Never hath Breca at the play of the battle, nor either of you two, feat so fearless performed with weapons, glinting and gleaming. Big pause. I utter no boasting, though with cold-blooded cruelty thou killedst thy brothers, thy nearest of kin. Thou needs must in hell get direful damnation, thou doughty thy wisdom. I tell thee in earnest, offspring of Ecglaf, never had Grendel such numberless horrors, the direful demon, done to thy liege lord, harrying in Heorot. If thy heart were as sturdy, thy mood as ferocious as thou dost describe them. He hath found out fully that the fierce-burning hatred of the edge battle-eager, of all of your kindred, of the victory-skildings, need little dismay him. Oaths he exacteth, not any he spares, of the folk of the Danemen, but fighteth with pleasure, killeth and feasteth, no contest expecteth, from spear-Danish people. But the prowess and valor of the earls of the Geatmen early shall venture to give him a grapple. He shall go who is able bravely to banquet, when the bright light of morning, which the second day bringeth, the sun in its either robes, or the children of men shines from the southward. Then the gray-haired, war-famed giver of treasure was blithesome and joyous. The bright Danish ruler expected assistance. The people's protector heard from Beowulf his bold resolution. There was laughter of heroes, loud was the clatter, the words were winsome. Weathhillo advanced them, consort of Hrothgar, of courtesy mindful, gold-decked, saluted the men in the building. And the freeborn woman the beaker presented to the lord of the kingdom, first of the East Danes, bade him be blithesome when beer was a-flowing. Lief to his liegemen, he lustily tasted of banquet and beaker, famed battle ruler. The Helmingish lady then graciously circled mid all the liegemen lesser and greater, treasure cup tendered till time was afforded, that the decorous mooded, diademed folk queen might bear to Beowulf the bumper of o'errunning. She greeted the Geat prince, God she did thank, most wise in her words, that her wish was accomplished, that in any of earlmen she ever should look for solace in sorrow. He accepted the beaker, battle-bold warrior, at Weathlo's giving, then equipped for combat, quoth he in measures. Beowulf spake, offering of Ithgro. I purposed in spirit when I mounted the ocean. When I boarded my boat with a band of my liegemen, I would work to the fullest of the will of your people, or in foes' clutches fasted fall in the battle. Deeds I shall do of daring and prowess, or the last of my life days live in this mead hall. These words to the lady were welcome and pleasing. The boast of the Geatmen, with gold trappings broidered, went the freeborn folk queen, her fond lord, to sit by. Then again, as of yore was heard in the building, curtly discussion, conquerors shouting, heroes were happy, till Healfdene's son would go to his slumber to seek for refreshing. for the horrid hell monster in the hall building knew he a fight was determined, since the light of the sun they could no longer see, and lowering darkness o'er all had descended, and dark under heaven shadowy shapes came shying around them. The liegemen all rose then, one saluted the other, Hrothgar Beowulf, in rhythmical measures, wishing him well, and the wassail hall giving, to his care and keeping, quoth he departing. Not to any one else have I ever entrusted, but thee, and thee only, hall of the Danemen, since high I could heave my hand and my buckler. Take thou in charge now the noblest of houses. Be mindful of honor, exhibiting prowess. Watch 'gainst the foemen, thou shalt want no enjoyments. Survive thou safely adventure so glorious. Next one is called Part 11, All Sleep Save One. Then Hrothgar departed, his earl throng attending him, folklord of the Skeldings, forth from the building. The war chieftain wished then Weathlow to look for, the queen for a bedmate. To keep away Grendel, the glory of kings, had given a hall watch, as men heard recounted. For the king of the Danemen, he did special service, gave the giant a watcher, and the prince of the Geatmen implicitly trusted his warlike strength and the wielder's protection. His armor of iron off him he did then, his helmet from his head to his henchman committed, his chaste-handled chained sword, choicest of weapons, and bade him bide with his battle equipments. The good one then uttered words of defiance. Beowulf Geatman, ere his bed he upmounted. I hold me no meaner in matters of prowess, in warlike achievements, than Grendel does himself. Hence I seek not with sword edge to soothe him to slumber, of life to bereave him, though well I am able. No battle skill has he, that blows he should strike me, to shatter my shield, though sure he is mighty in strife and destruction. But struggling by night we shall do without edges. Dare he to look for weaponless warfare, and wise-mooded father the glory approachen. God ever holy, on which hand soever to him seemeth proper. Then the brave-mooded hero bent to his slumber. The pillow received the cheek of the noble, and many a martial mere thane attending sank to his slumber. Seemed it unlikely that ever thereafter any should hope to be happy at home, hero friends visit, or the lordly troop castle where he lived from his childhood. They had heard how slaughter had snatched from the wine hall, had recently ravished of the race of the Skeldings too many by far. But the Lord to them granted the weavings of war speed to wenderish heroes, aid and comfort, and that every opponent by one man's war might they worsted and vanquished by the might of himself. The truth is established, that God Almighty hath governed for ages, kindreds and nations. A night very lurid, the traveler at twilight came tramping and striding. The warriors were sleeping who should watch the horned building. One only excepted, mid-earthman 'twas established. The impeccable foeman was powerless to hurl them to the land of the shadows. If the Lord were unwilling, but serving as warder, in terror to foemen, he angrily bided the issue of battle. And now we are on part 12, Grendel and Beowulf. Neath the cloudy cliffs came from the moor then, Grendel going, God's anger bare he. The monster intended some one of earthmen in the hall building grand to entrap and make way with. He went under welkin, where well he knew of the wine joyous building, brilliant with plating, gold hall of earthmen, not the earliest occasion. He the home and manor of Hrothgar had sought. Never found he in life days later, nor earlier, hardier hero, hall thanes more sturdy. Then came to the building the warrior marching, bereft of his joyance. The door quickly opened, on fire hinges fastened, when his fingers had touched it. The fell one had flung then, his fury so bitter, open the entrance. Early thereafter, the foeman trod the shining hall pavement. Strode he angrily, from the eyes of him glimmered a luster unlovely, likeliest to fire. He beheld in the hall the heroes in numbers, a circle of kinsmen sleeping together. a throng of Thanemen. Then his thoughts were exultant. He minded to sunder from each of the Thanemen the life from his body, horrible demon, ere morning came, since fate had allowed him the prospect of plenty. Providence willed not to permit him any more of men under heaven to eat in the night time. Hygelac's kinsmen great sorrow endured how the dire-mooded creature in unlooked-for assaults were likely to bear him. No thought had the monster of deferring the matter, but on the earliest occasion he quickly laid hold of a soldier asleep, suddenly tore him, but bit his bone prison, the blood drank in currents, swallowed in mouthfuls. He soon had the dead man's feet and hands, too, eaten entirely. Nearer he strode then. The stout-hearted warrior snatched as he slumbered, seizing with hand grip. Forward the foeman foined with his hand, caught he quickly the cunning deviser, on his elbow he rested. This early discovered the master of malice, that in Middle-earth's regions, 'neath the whole of the heavens, no hand grapple greater in any man else had he ever encountered. Fearful in spirit, faint-mooded waxed he, not off could betake him. Death he was pondering, would fly to his covert, seek the devil's assembly. His calling no more was the same he had followed long in his lifetime. The liege kinsman worthy of Hygelac minded his speech of the evening. Stood he up straight and stoutly did seize him. His fingers crackled. The giant was outward. The earl stepped farther. The famous one minded to flee away farther, if he found an occasion, and off and away, avoiding delay. To fly to the fen moors, he was fully ware of the strength of his grapple in the grip of the foeman. 'Twas an ill-taken journey that the injury bringing, harrying the hammer to Heorot wandered. The palace re-echoed to all of the Danemen, dwellers in castles, to each of the bold ones. Earlmen was terror. Angry they both were, archwards raging, rattled the building. 'Twas a marvelous wonder that the wine hall withstood then, the bold in battle bent not to earthward. Excellent earth hall, but within and without it was fastened so firmly in fetters of iron by the art of the armorer. Off from their sill there bent mead benches many, as men have informed me, adorned with gold work, where the grim ones did struggle. The Skeldings' wise men weened ne'er before, that by might and main strength a man under heaven might break it in pieces, bone-decked, resplendent, crushed it by cunning, unless clutch of the fire in smoke should consume it. The sound mounted upwards, novel enough, on the North Danes fastened, a terror of anguish, on all men there who heard from the wall the weeping and plaining, the song of defeat from the foeman of heaven, heard him hymns of horror howl, and his sorrow hell-bound bewailing. He held him too firmly, who was strongest of main strength of men of that era.